You're listening to Bloomberg Businessweek with Massar and Tim Stenovec on Bloomberg Radio.
In prepping for this, I was kind of doing some search through some Bloomberg stories. Ola Karif and Nate Langson of Bloomberg News, they reported they are great in early 2022 about how crypto enthusiasts dream not only of revolutionizing money, they want to reinvent the World Wide Web as well. Their vision, which goes by the name Web3, is a decentralized environment built on crypto technology in which swarms of independent collaborators take back control of the web from giant tech companies. So it's a threat, Tim, to the likes of Meta, potentially platforms, Twitter. You know, these are the ones that maybe are at risk.
So with that in mind, there's a new book out, and it gets into Web3. It's all about, quote, charting the internet's next economic and cultural frontier. Here to talk about his latest book, back with us, we're very pleased to have Alex Tapscott. He's also the co-author of Blockchain Revolution, and he's the co-founder of Blockchain Research Institute. He's right here in our Bloomberg Interactive Brokers studio. Alex, how are you?
I'm terrific. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's good to see you again. I'm not trying to be rude, okay?
Wow, you're going to be harsh right off the bat?
I'm going to be harsh right off the bat. The kind of joke this year is like, you know, we're not talking about Web3 or the metaverse anymore. We're talking about AI.
Right.
So why is this the moment to write another book about the blockchain and Web3?
Well, it's true that there are many different technologies that all are emerging at the same time. AI is one of them, but there are others, you know, blockchain, the Internet of Things, and extended and virtual reality. And the thing is, these technologies are not separate. They're actually related. In the same way that the term internet went from describing, you know, one narrow set of technologies to describing new business models, new social behavior, and a whole range of technology, I actually view the term Web3 as being the term that best captures where we're going, what this next digital age is going to look like.
Okay, so before we get to that, you should explain Web 1 and Web 2 for the uninitiated.
Yeah, for sure. So Web 1 basically was a medium for the presentation of information on static websites.
So think like
.coms.
So basically. Think like the New York Times deciding to put their newspaper on the internet.
Yeah, exactly. Like a way that you can access information, but you can't interact with it. You can't collaborate. You can't post your own content. It's pretty static. It's one way. And though it was relatively simple, it still revolutionized things because it was this first digital medium for information. Web 2, which came about around the sort of early to mid 2000s, took one leap forward, which is the web became social. It became interactive. It became a platform for people to communicate and to collaborate online. And
Enter Facebook.
Enter Facebook. And the mobile app store. And in a way, it also became kind of 2.5 dimensional, right? It went from this thing that we accessed on desktop computers to a thing that kind of traveled with us in the world. And, you know, a lot of people in the Web3 world are very bearish on Web 2. And I think that the track record is a bit more mixed. So, you know, when it comes to Web 2, it's undeniable that it created tons of value, certainly for shareholders of companies like, you know, Google and Facebook.
Right.
But it also expanded internet connectivity to billions of people, and in a way gave a voice to sort of marginalized people. People who didn't have a voice had a way to publish content and information.
Brought about change.
Yeah.
We, you know, right? We talked about the Arab Spring and different things
Exactly.
as a result of social media. So Web3 takes us where, in your view?
Web3 takes us to a new layer of the web, which is what we call the read, write, own web. So without getting into the technical jargon, the key word there is own. What Web3 enables is for people to be able to own the asset class of the digital age, to own their own data, their own identities, and their own digital creations and their own digital goods. And so what that means, like any previous technology, it's going to be big for business, but it's also going to, in my opinion, change culture and society.
Why is it big for business?
Well, it's big for business because blockchains and Web3 represent sort of the first digital medium for value, a way to move value peer-to-peer without the need for an intermediary or a middleman. And so what I think that's going to do...
So to me, it also says it cuts out a lot of business too.
Well, potentially, but there are always, with any new technology, like there are always just as many opportunities for re-intermediation as there are disintermediation, in my opinion. And one great example of this that we see happening right now is in the world of stablecoins. So these are in the news because PayPal just launched a stablecoin.
Not always stable.
Well, we can get to that in a second. PayPal just launched a stablecoin. Visa is enabling merchant-to-merchant settlements with stablecoins. And, you know, they had to wait to see that this business could grow to the point where it would impact them. And today, you know, the stablecoin market is well over $100 billion. And companies that issue stablecoins make a lot of money. And they do it in a relatively boring way, which would be familiar to any Bloomberg Radio listener, which is basically that when someone wants a stablecoin, they're usually depositing money. They're getting a stablecoin, which is this digital medium to move money all around the world.
Right.
And then the issuer can just take that money and invest it risk-free. Now, in the like Silicon Valley Bank. Now, of course, they'd be wise to keep a lot of that in short-term treasuries rather than long-dated treasuries to avoid duration mismatch. But they can make a lot of money. So, in my view, like a company like PayPal, which was a pioneer in payments, but is seeing all sorts of outside pressure from like Apple and Shopify, now has this very unique opportunity to reach into the Web3 toolkit, pull out this new thing called a token, in this case a stablecoin, and potentially save their business.
So are they still doing that, given that we're still in this crypto winter? It seems like interest around this has died down so much since we, stopped talking about crypto.
Yeah. Well, I think that from the outside looking in, every technology revolution looks like an overnight success story. The reality is that they're usually decades in the making. And AI, I think, is a good example of that. The first AI...
Would you consider AI part of Web3?
I would consider AI a technology that's foundational to the Web3 era. So, I think the term Web3 still mostly comes to define like blockchain-related applications. But I think over time, we need a term that's going to help us to capture all of these transformations that are happening. And I think also what's interesting to me about this era that we're in is that people think of these all as discrete areas, right? I mean, even the nature of your question is one I get a lot, which is it's not about Web3, it's about AI. It's like, well, it can actually be about more than one thing at once.
No, that's fair. I agree. Like evolving innovation, technology, they tend to kind of crisscross each other. How do you, though, scale it? I mean, right, Web3, its foundation is being decentralized. Mm-hmm. So how do you scale that?
Yeah, it's a great question. So in Web3, I think there are missionaries, there are mercenaries, and there are pragmatists.
How do you know the difference?
Well, you're looking at a pragmatist right now as we speak. So there are people who bring a missionary zeal to this, and those people are essential to any new thing. And I describe Web3 as a new frontier. And so when you're on the frontier, missionaries are good to help sort of lead the charge because they're willing to step into the unknown. And then there are mercenaries that want to take advantage of the new thing and maybe make some money. And when it comes to Web3 or AI, they'll come in and out and we won't hear from them again. And then there are pragmatists. In order for Web3 to reach its potential, I do believe that the underlying infrastructure needs to be decentralized. But in the meantime, it's okay that there are big companies like PayPal or Amazon or MasterCard or even Citibank, which just announced it wants to tokenize its client assets, stepping into this space. If you really think this technology is going to make a difference, and then you want to see it in the hands of as many people as possible.
Doesn't it just like the infrastructure just kind of move to a different model, but it's kind of the same model in some ways?
Well, it depends. When it comes to the tokens, which is one component of Web3, the fact that they're a way for people to move and store, and businesses, I should add, for people and businesses to move and store value peer-to-peer, just by its very nature, reduces the need for an intermediary. Now, So
it'd be like me doing Venmo, but I don't have to have the bank, right? I could just do it directly.
Yeah, and you'd be able to do it anywhere around the world.
But I have to have a token to do it.
Yes, well, the token can be $1.
And okay.
That's the thing about where we are right now, is that some of the early versions of these, new innovations are foreign to people. But as the technology matures, they're going to find product market fit. And in a way, like one of the ironies for me of Web3 is that one of the first killer apps is a US dollar stablecoin, which is funny because when you think of Bitcoin, you think of a technology that was supposed to disintermediate banks and reduce the need for governments. But the US dollar is one of the first killer apps.
I still think of something like a housing, in the housing market, like title insurance.
Yeah.
Why does everybody have to pay thousands of dollars?
That to me makes complete sense. The provenance of a piece of art, things like that make complete sense.
But why are we still in a time period where if you buy a new place, you still have to pay thousands of dollars rather than this, a title being available on the blockchain, just in case the title doesn't exist.
Right.
I completely agree with you. And when it comes to those kinds of hard assets, it's a difficult problem to solve. I wish that I could say blockchain and Web3 is going to solve that. The reality is that you've got records, data about who owns what that are stored in the records offices of local counties and towns and so forth. And so you have to get the data going in correct before you can get the outcome correct. But I think when it comes to digital assets, and I think that digital assets will soon come to represent more assets, it's much, much easier. And I'll give you just one great example, which
Got
I
about
think
15 seconds.
Which shows how AI and Web3 interact. There's a writer's strike right now going on. We should be able to track the IP and who owns it that goes into these large language models as a way to ensure creators get paid instantly. And there's a way to do that with Web3.
The companies they work for own it, no? No, it's
in some
tricky.
cases, yeah.
We're going to have to continue this.
Okay.
So enjoyed it. Alex Tapscott, his new book, Web3, Charting the Internet's Next Economic and Cultural Frontier. So much more to talk about.